Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Money Podcast, your source for all things money. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Anthony Pompliano on the line, and he is co-founder and partner over at Morgan Creek Digital. Pomp, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, man. Super excited.
So let's just kick it off. Let's start off by getting into what you're doing over at Morgan Creek Digital Assets. Tell us a little bit more about the company.
Yeah, we basically take institutional capital. We invest it across the Bitcoin and blockchain ecosystem. Most of our funds are for those institutions, and they've got some combination of equity in private for-profit companies, and then we hold some liquid cryptocurrency, which is almost exclusively Bitcoin.
So any kind of interesting trends you're noticing in your space? Because you're working on the institutional level, and I just find it, like, in the evolution of the space, because you've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah, I think two things. So first of all, 3-4 years ago, institutions were like, no way do I even want to talk about that. We're past that point now. Some of them have started to invest. So some of the more forward-thinking university endowments, we manage capital on behalf of the only 2 U.S. public pensions in the space. You start to see some sovereign wealth funds participating, et cetera. So kind of people now are starting to actually put capital behind this, but still small dollars. And what they're looking for is a combination of those liquid cryptocurrencies while also still being very interested in the equity of these companies. And so I think that's very healthy over a long period of time. But again, speaking of time, it's not going to happen overnight. So we just need many months, if not a couple of years, for the institutions to go through their process. They're very risk averse, get familiar, get educated, and eventually start to put bigger and bigger dollars to work.
So, I mean, historically, we always consider the institutions, right, the smart money and the herd, the dumb money. I mean, not saying we like those terms, but that's just a way of thinking of it. So if the smart money's starting to invest in these things, do you see that as a really solid sign that as the maturity of this goes, it's just gonna, I don't mean valuations, by the way, I just mean adoption rate and the actual, if we think about fiat in general, the exchange, right, of currency for goods, that it's just going to be more and more widespread and accepted in just commerce in general?
Yeah, I don't think that there's going to be like this massive inflection point where you and I go to sleep one night and then we wake up the next day and we're like, oh my God, there's a 10x in adoption, right? I think it's much more kind of gradual over time, and we continue to see an increase in interest and adoption on a lot of the fundamental data. If you look at Bitcoin, et cetera. And so I kind of look at it as just like Bitcoin doing what it's supposed to do on its trek to or kind of rise to adoption. And so people just need to have patience and understand that, again, this isn't going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 1 or 2 years. Like, this is a multi-decade thing. In fact, we were pretty lucky to be alive while we see this happen.
Yeah, and the technology side of things, let's talk about that. So, like, the actual fintech side of managing money on in terms of platforms and otherwise, how did the evolution of that happen? Because I just know a lot of players entering the market with other solutions.
Yeah, again, it comes back to, this is not a technology problem around money, right? It's a monetary policy problem. And so what most cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin are trying to do is they're trying to win on a technology advantage. So they say, hey, we have higher throughput, we have, X or Y, Z shiny thing. The problem is that it's not a technology problem. It is a monetary policy problem. And Bitcoin is a deflationary, macro-structured currency that has a disinflationary monetary schedule, which essentially just means that it is a very different monetary policy than every fiat currency that exists. And so ultimately what people who are buying into Bitcoin and adopting it, they're buying into this new monetary policy. It doesn't have to be around the technology. It's the monetary policy that's the differentiator. And that kind of gets lost in the conversation sometimes.
Let's talk about the conversation of monetary policy and what's going on in government. I mean, anything interesting on there that you're noticing? Because obviously that plays into these investments.
Yeah, I think that governments realize, hey, look, there's value here. And so what they're doing is the best thing they can. They're not going to change their monetary policy. So instead they say, well, let's adopt the technology. And so you see a lot of these central banks trying to create central bank digital currencies. And I think we'll continue to see that happen. It's a very rational thing for them to do. But again, it just goes back to the technology is only going to get you so far. You really got to change the monetary policy. And ultimately, central bankers are facing the innovator's dilemma, right? They can't get rid of the thing that they have because it's already going good enough. And so I think that it kind of ends in the place where we all kind of feel like we're going anyways.
Let's talk about international. So, I mean, other markets and what's going on there for Bitcoin and digital currency in general. Anything interesting that you're just noticing abroad?
Yeah, again, I think that in the United States we're very, very spoiled, right? Most the dollar works for us. We have access to credit and financial services, et cetera. And so a lot of people will say, well, why do I need Bitcoin? I have the dollar. It works great. And that's true for people in the developed world. But internationally, in the developing world, in many cases, the fiat currency that is from the country of which they live doesn't serve that purpose. Well, they actually don't even have the ability to interface with the financial system because they need to get a bank account. They don't have one. Huge problem. And so what Bitcoin essentially does is it provides the promise of all you need is an internet connection. And if you have an internet connection, you can now access all of these different financial services that have been available in the developed world. And I think that's going to be a really big inflection point for the production of human, kind of as a species. And so I'm super excited to kind of see adoption in a number of areas internationally continue. But again, it will take a long time and not going to happen overnight.
What excites you in 2020 for your industry? I mean, what's on the horizon for Morgan Creek Digital Assets?
Yeah, I think for us, there's two big things. So one is we've got a pretty strong thesis around Bitcoin itself. We think that'll happen and kind of play out over the next 18 to 20 months. So that'll be something that we just kind of wait and watch to see if we're correct there. And then the second thing is a number of the companies that we've invested in have continued to grow very rapidly in the equity portions of our funds. And so we're super excited to kind of see the infrastructure around this industry, kind of more traditional venture capital type plays, really kind of hitting their stride. And what I hope happens there, both for us, for investors in the space and then the institutions, is that kind of success begets success. Right, as people see, oh, look, these companies are being successful, then that causes more investors wanting to invest. It causes more people wanting to leave their traditional jobs and go into the space, et cetera. And so it kind of is a momentum game in the equity world of this industry. And so far, so good. It feels like that momentum's building.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, Pomp, if somebody's listening to this and they want more information on Morgan Creek Digital Assets or to follow up and just to learn more about your work and in your writing and thesis, what's the best way for them to get that info?
Yeah. Obviously, people can follow me on Twitter, but really trying to grow the YouTube channel. So people just search Anthony Pompliano on YouTube. We've got something on there. If they go subscribe, they can get daily videos about the technology and finance stuff that we're pumping out.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Pomp, awesome having you on the show today and getting more about your background and all the great stuff you're doing over at Morgan Creek Digital Assets. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review. Also, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Money, give that a subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Love to hear your thoughts on everything. And Pomp, thanks again for being on the show.